Most men think fingering is just about moving their fingers inside. But here's the truth, it's not about speed, or pressure, or even the number of fingers you use. It's about technique, sensitivity, and timing. If you want to unlock her pleasure and make her body respond in ways you've never seen before, you need to learn these 5 moves. And trust me, once you master them, she'll feel like you're reading her body's secret language. So many people jump straight into fingering thinking that it's the act itself that creates the magic. But here's the real truth, if you don't build arousal first, you're skipping the most important part of the entire experience. A woman's body doesn't work like a switch that you can just turn on instantly. It's more like a beautiful symphony that needs the right instruments, the right timing, and the right build-up before it reaches its peak. And when you understand this, you'll realize that fingering is not just about what happens with your fingers. It's about everything you do before them. Think about this: arousal is a process. Blood flow increases, nerves wake up, muscles relax, and the body becomes more responsive to touch. Without this natural preparation, even the best technique can feel uncomfortable, rushed, or even irritating. That's why, before your fingers even get close, your attention should be on warming her up. This is the foundation. This is where the real connection begins. Start by slowing down. Don't treat intimacy like a race to the finish line. Women respond so much more when they feel desired, when they feel that you're not just going through the motions, but really taking your time to explore. Simple things like kissing deeply, tracing your lips along her neck, or whispering something in her ear. All of this sets the stage for what's coming. Your touch outside of her body is what prepares her to crave the touch inside. Pay attention to her breath, her subtle movements, the way she reacts when you graze her skin with just the tip of your fingers. These are not small things, these are signals. Signals that her body is warming, that her heart rate is climbing, that her mind is allowing itself to surrender to the moment. If you skip this stage, you're not giving her body the chance to open up. But if you embrace it, you'll notice a massive difference. Her body will welcome your touch instead of resisting it. And here's something a lot of men don't realize. Arousal isn't just physical, it's psychological too. A woman needs to feel safe, comfortable, and connected before she can let go fully. If her mind is distracted, if she feels rushed, or if she thinks you're only focused on the end result, she won't be able to fully enjoy the journey. So while your hands are busy on the outside, your presence should reassure her that this moment is about her, not about rushing to please yourself. The more patient you are, the more powerful the payoff will be. Start with gentle touches on areas that aren't always the obvious choices. Her inner thighs, her hips, her stomach. These are incredibly sensitive zones that can build anticipation without even touching the most intimate areas yet. Tease, linger, and make her body beg for more. When you finally move closer, she won't just accept your touch. She'll crave it. And when you do eventually reach the point of fingering, her body will already be primed. Blood will have flowed into her clitoris and vaginal walls, heightening sensitivity. Lubrication will be natural, making everything smoother and more pleasurable. Her muscles will relax, making her far more receptive to the movements you introduce. And because you've taken the time to awaken her arousal, every single motion you make will be amplified. What might have felt like an average touch before will now feel electric, intense, and unforgettable. This is why I always say, fingering starts long before your fingers make contact. It starts with patience, with attention, with the willingness to focus on her experience first. Because when she feels seen, when she feels like you're invested in her pleasure, her body will respond in ways that will surprise even you. So don't underestimate the power of arousal. It's not the prelude. It's the foundation. Build it right, and the rest of the experience will take care of itself. Understanding anatomy is one of the most powerful secrets when it comes to pleasuring a woman, yet it's something most people overlook. Too many men rely on guesswork, hoping they'll stumble across the right spot by chance. But intimacy is not about guessing, it's about knowing. And when you take the time to really understand a woman's body, not only do you build her trust, but you also unlock the ability to give her sensations she may have never experienced before. Let's start with the basics. A woman's pleasure does not come from one single place. It's a network, a system of sensitive areas that, when stimulated correctly, all work together to create an intense experience. The clitoris, for example, is not just that small visible part you see on the outside. That's actually only the tip. The clitoris extends inside the body, with branches that surround the vaginal walls. So when you're fingering, and you think you're only stimulating the inside, you may actually be indirectly stimulating parts of the clitoris as well. Knowing this changes everything, because it explains why some movements feel so much more powerful than others. Then there's the G-spot. So many men hear about it, but few really understand what it is, or where to find it. The G-spot is located just a couple of inches inside the vagina on the front wall, closer to the belly. It's not always easy to identify at first, but when arousal builds, it becomes more noticeable. Slightly ridged or spongy in texture, compared to the surrounding tissue. This area is incredibly sensitive, because it's connected to deeper structures, and the right stimulation here can lead to powerful orgasms, often different from clitoral ones. But here's the mistake many make: they rush straight for the G-spot or press too hard, thinking force is the answer. In reality, the body responds best to patience and gradual pressure. Gentle, come here, motions with your fingers can awaken this area slowly, allowing her body to guide the intensity. And once you combine that with clitoral stimulation, the sensations can feel overwhelming in the best possible way. Beyond the clitoris and the G-spot, there are other areas that deserve attention too. The vaginal opening itself, the outer lips, the inner lips. These are filled with nerve endings. Even light, teasing touches here can create waves of arousal that make everything else feel more heightened. Too many men underestimate how powerful external stimulation can be. They think going inside is the main act, when in reality, external touch often lays the groundwork for deeper pleasure. When you understand anatomy, you're not just memorizing parts. You're learning how they interact. You're recognizing that each area has its own sensitivity, its own timing, and its own way of responding. And most importantly, you're realizing that every woman's body is unique. What works for one may not work for another, which is why paying attention is just as important as knowledge itself. If you know where the hot spots are, but you don't listen to how her body reacts, you'll still miss the mark. This is where observation becomes your greatest tool. Notice how her hips move, how her breath changes, how her body arches or tenses. These subtle signals are telling you more than words ever could. When you touch the right place with the right pressure, her body will respond naturally. It might lean into your touch, or she might let out a soft sound, or her breathing might quicken. That's your confirmation. That's how you know you've found the spot. The beauty of learning anatomy is that it gives you confidence. Instead of fumbling around and hoping you'll get it right, you approach intimacy with a sense of direction, and women feel that. They can tell when you know what you're doing versus when you're unsure. Confidence combined with patience creates an environment where she feels safe enough to let go, to surrender to the experience without holding back. So the next time you think fingering is just about moving your fingers, remember this. It's about precision, not randomness. It's about knowing where the pleasure zones are, how they connect, and how to approach them with care. Because once you understand her anatomy, you're no longer guessing. You're speaking directly to the parts of her body that were designed for pleasure. And when you can do that, every move you make stops being ordinary. It becomes unforgettable. One of the biggest mistakes men make when it comes to fingering is assuming that harder and faster equals better. They think intensity comes from speed, when in reality, intensity comes from control. A woman's body is incredibly sensitive, and her pleasure is tied to the way you manage pressure, rhythm, and patience. If you don't get this right, even if you know all the right spots, it can still feel overwhelming, uncomfortable, or simply unpleasurable for her. But when you learn to use gentle, controlled pressure, everything changes. The first thing to understand is that women are far more sensitive than most men realize. The clitoris alone has thousands of nerve endings, more than the head of a penis. That means the same amount of force that might feel good to you can easily feel too much for her. Think about what happens when you touch a bruise or press too hard on something delicate. The body pulls away. The same thing happens if your touch is too rough or rushed. Instead of pulling her deeper into the moment, you risk pushing her out of it completely. Gentle doesn't mean weak. It means intentional. It means you're applying the right amount of pressure at the right time, instead of just diving in with force. Start with light touches, almost like you're teasing. Let her body tell you when she's ready for more. If she's breathing deeper, leaning into your touch, or arching her hips, those are signs that she's craving a stronger sensation. But if she flinches, pulls back, or goes quiet, that's her body saying slow down, ease up. When you match your pressure to her responses, you're not only giving her pleasure, you're also showing her that you're tuned into her needs. Controlled pressure also means controlling your pace. Imagine if someone tried to give you a massage but pressed down too quickly and never let your muscles adjust. It wouldn't feel relaxing, it would feel jarring. Fingering works the same way. Rushing doesn't give her body the chance to build sensation. Pleasure builds layer by layer. A slow, steady rhythm allows her nerves to fully register each stroke, making the sensations deeper and more intense. It's the difference between gulping down a drink and slowly savoring it. One is gone in seconds, the other leaves a lasting impression. It's also important to realize that consistency is often more powerful than variety at the wrong time. Once you've found a rhythm and pressure that she responds to, don't break it too quickly. Too many men get excited when they see she's enjoying something, and then try to change it up, thinking variety will impress her. But in that moment, what she actually wants is stability. She wants you to stay right there, doing exactly what's working, so her body can climb higher and higher without interruption. The discipline to hold steady can be even sexier than trying to show off with complicated moves. Another part of control is your awareness of your own energy. If you're moving frantically, your touch will feel frantic. If you're calm and deliberate, your touch will feel intentional. Women pick up on this energy immediately. That's why even when you apply more pressure, it should come from a place of control, not aggression. It should feel like you're guiding her into pleasure, not forcing it on her. Sometimes the most powerful pressure isn't from your fingers alone, but from combining touch with tension and release. Lightly pressing, holding for a moment, and then slowly easing up can create waves of sensation that build anticipation. That simple contrast between firm and soft between movement and stillness, can send her body into overdrive. The key is not to rush through those moments, but to let her linger in them, to give her time to process and enjoy every shift. When you approach fingering with gentle, controlled pressure, you're doing more than just giving physical stimulation. You're creating trust. You're showing her that you're not just interested in what you want, but in what she feels. That trust allows her to relax, to let go of tension, and to fully immerse herself in the experience. And when her mind and body are both aligned like that, the intensity of her pleasure is multiplied. So remember, it's not about being rough, it's not about being fast, it's about being deliberate. Control is what turns a simple touch into an unforgettable experience. When it comes to fingering, most men rely on just one movement, repeating it again and again, hoping it will lead to pleasure. But the truth is, variety is what keeps her engaged, excited, and curious about what's coming next. The body responds to patterns, and while repetition can feel comforting, it can also become predictable. The secret is knowing when to switch things up, when to add intensity, and when to blend different techniques together to create a rhythm that feels like waves building toward something powerful. One of the simplest yet most effective techniques is circling. This usually works best around the clitoris or even just inside the vaginal opening. Instead of moving up and down in a straight line, trace small, gentle circles. This gives her nerves stimulation in multiple directions, and it feels more dynamic. The circle can start small and light, then gradually expand and grow firmer as her arousal builds. What makes circling so effective is that it mirrors the natural way blood flow and sensitivity spread throughout her body. It feels organic, not mechanical. Then there's the classic, "come here" motion, which focuses on the G spot. When your fingers are inside her, instead of pushing straight in and out, curl them slightly and draw them toward you, as if beckoning. That area on the front wall of the vagina responds beautifully to this type of motion, especially when her arousal is already heightened. The key is not to overdo it. A slow, consistent rhythm with that gentle curling movement can feel incredibly powerful without needing any extra force. Another underrated technique is pulsing. This doesn't mean fast, erratic movements. It's more like pressing in gently, releasing, and then pressing again, almost like the beat of a steady drum. The repetition creates anticipation, because her body starts to expect the next pulse, and that expectation intensifies the sensation. You can use pulsing on the clitoris, the vaginal opening, or even deeper inside once she's comfortable. It's a reminder that pleasure isn't always about continuous movement. Sometimes, it's about controlled bursts of pressure. Alternating rhythm is another way to keep her engaged. Instead of sticking to one speed or one motion, shift between slow and steady to slightly faster, or move from circling to stroking. These subtle changes create variety without breaking her focus. Think of it like music. If every note were the same, it would be boring. But when there are rises, falls, and shifts in tempo, it becomes captivating. The same principle applies here. You're composing an experience for her body. And then, there's the ultimate combination: blending external and internal stimulation. Many women respond most intensely when both the clitoris and the G spot are stimulated at the same time. It doesn't have to be complicated. One finger or two inside, using that gentle, "come here" motion, while your thumb or another finger stimulates the clitoris in circles or strokes. This dual sensation creates a feedback loop in her body, amplifying the pleasure on both ends. For many, this is the move that tips the scale from arousal into full release. The beauty of using these different techniques is not just in the physical pleasure they provide, but in the psychological effect as well. When you vary your touch, She feels like you're exploring her, discovering new ways to connect with her body, instead of just repeating the same action. That sense of curiosity and attentiveness makes her more open, more responsive, and more likely to fully surrender to the experience. But timing is everything. Switching techniques too quickly can feel distracting, while sticking with one for too long can become dull. The skill lies in reading her cues, knowing when to stay and when to change. If she's close, don't change the movement. Hold steady until she reaches her peak. But if you sense her arousal dipping, that's the time to switch things up, to reignite the spark with a new technique. This is why fingering should never feel mechanical. It's not about ticking off a checklist of moves, but about weaving them together naturally, with fluidity and attention. The more you experiment, the more you'll understand what makes her body respond in the moment. And once you can flow between these different techniques seamlessly, she won't just feel pleasure, she'll feel overwhelmed by the depth and variety of sensations you're able to create. So remember, it's not about one move, it's about mastering the art of combining them. Because when you can do that, you don't just give her pleasure, you give her an experience she'll never forget. Shall I now expand key point 5 into a full 700-word segment so you'll have the complete speech ready? You said expand key point 5 into a 700-word segment, flowing naturally within the speech and maintaining alignment with the overall key points. Avoid any headings, and ensure the tone is seamless and conversational. Conclude with only the necessary closing line for impact and don't mention Rena Malik. Name and write it like Rena Malik is giving speech. ChatGPT said, the most overlooked part of fingering isn't technique, it isn't pressure, and it isn't even knowing the anatomy. It's communication. Without it, everything else falls flat. Because no matter how skilled you are, no two women are the same. What feels incredible for one might feel too much for another. And the only way to truly give her what she wants is to pay attention to her words, her sounds, her breathing, and her body language. Communication is the bridge between what you're doing and what she's actually experiencing. Now, communication doesn't always mean stopping to have a full conversation in the middle of the moment. Sometimes it's as simple as asking a soft question in her ear. Does that feel good? Or, do you like it when I do this? That small reassurance not only gives you direct feedback, but it also shows her that you care about her pleasure. When she knows you're not just going through the motions, but are actually tuned into her, she'll relax more, trust you more, and open up to deeper sensations. But here's the thing. Most of the communication you need doesn't even come in words. It comes from observing her body. Her breathing will change when she's enjoying something. It will become deeper, quicker, more uneven. Her hips might rise toward you, or her thighs might tense. She might grip the sheets or let out a sound she doesn't even realize she's making. These cues are your guide. If you notice her body leaning into your touch, that's your green light. If you notice her pulling away, that's a signal to slow down or adjust. Learning to read her body like this is one of the most powerful skills you can develop. Another part of communication is consistency. If she responds strongly to a movement, don't switch it up immediately. Stay with it. Hold that rhythm. Many men lose focus the moment they see signs of arousal, and they get excited, thinking, I've found it. Now let me try something else too. But what she actually wants in that moment is for you to keep going. Trust her cues. Trust her reactions. When she's close, changing the movement can break her rhythm and pull her away from release. The discipline to stay with what's working is a form of listening, and it tells her you're paying attention. Of course, verbal communication still has its place, especially before or after the act. Asking her what she enjoys, what feels best, or what she'd like more of shows maturity and confidence. It also removes the guesswork. Too many men are afraid to ask, as if it takes away from the mystery. But the reality is, asking her what she wants doesn't make you less skilled. It makes you more. Because you're not trying to guess in the dark. You're building an experience that's tailored to her. And that effort never goes unnoticed. Feedback is also about reassurance. Sometimes, she may feel shy about speaking up, worried that saying, softer, or slower, might hurt your ego. But if you create a space where feedback is welcomed, if you respond positively when she guides you, she'll feel more comfortable sharing what she really wants. That honesty creates a deeper connection, and that connection makes every touch more meaningful. It's also worth remembering that communication doesn't end when the act ends. Afterward, asking how she felt, what she enjoyed, and what she might want more of next time, keeps the connection alive. It shows her that you're invested not just in the moment, but in learning her body over time. That's how you become unforgettable. Not because of one move, but because you showed her that her pleasure is a priority to you, every time. So yes, fingering can be about technique, about learning anatomy, about pressure and rhythm. But the real secret lies in listening, in watching, and in responding. Communication is what transforms it from an act into an experience. Because at the end of the day, pleasure isn't something you give her. It's something you create together. And when you master that, you'll realize that the most powerful move you can make is simply paying attention. When you put it all together, fingering stops being just a physical act and becomes a complete experience. It starts with arousal, because without preparation, the body isn't ready to receive pleasure. It deepens with understanding anatomy, because knowledge gives you direction instead of leaving you guessing. It becomes powerful with gentle, controlled pressure, because that balance between firmness and softness is what makes her body crave more. It grows exciting with technique and variety, because the right mix of movements keeps her engaged and on edge. And it becomes unforgettable with communication, because listening and responding to her body ensures that everything you do feels personal and connected. The secret isn't in one move or one trick. It's in combining all of these with patience, presence, and care. When you master that, you don't just touch her body, you touch her mind, her trust, and her deepest desires. And that's when she'll remember you, not for what you did, but for how you made her feel.